Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this Ag Forecast for South America, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. What I'd like to do to start off this video is piggyback on some of the stuff we covered on Monday, and that was primarily the brand new long-range updates for this upcoming summer growing season for South America. And I've been looking here at just Google Earth, and I want to remind folks that where we were seeing the greatest stresses were in Argentina. We do be good for us to just do a very quick kind of recap of the growing areas here. And we're going to kind of just do a bit of a triangle from Buenos Aires and this whole province here over toward Cordoba, which is kind of bordered by some high country and mountains, and then back over towards Santa Fe, and then we kind of can move north right into this particular area along the river here. And if you just haven't ever done this, go out to Google and just have a look at what these fields look like, because you can kind of zoom in here and see, very intensive agriculture. A lot of land here is in production, especially almost the whole of Buenos Aires province, this province right here. When we look at this overall productivity, we often think of this region right in through here, kind of between Buenos Aires and Cordoba as having some of the most productive ground. So for example, if I zoom in here just south of Cordoba, you can see this. This is though I plucked this out of a map from Illinois. Very much mid-latitude weather systems coming through here, so none of this is irrigated, and you can see that very productive use of the land. And then as you go from there kind of north and east, all right, so there is, of course, large bodies of water in certain places and rivers in place, but just in and around north of Santa Fe, you kind of see the same thing. Very dense regions of just lots and lots of fields. And so this is just for perspective on what we're talking about here. And I wanted to show you something else. It's one of my favorite websites, The True Size Of. I decided to kind of throw Illinois over an overlay of Illinois into this area. So for example, if you're going to go from Buenos Aires to Cordoba, that's almost like driving the entire length of the state of Illinois. And Rosario to Cordoba, that's going from where I live in Champaign up to the Quad Cities. This is a very large area we're talking about down here. Now, the reason why we're having this discussion is because the long-range forecasts have really been aggressive on early growing season drying from now through the next 45 to 60 days. And I want to give us some kind of stock in where things are. So we're going to go back to one of those websites I've been showing quite a bit lately. That's worldagweather.com. I've chosen Argentina, and we can click corn, soybeans. It's generally the same regions we're looking at here. And I want to start over there in Buenos Aires because we can see that over the last 60 days, there is an overall deficit in total accumulated precipitation. What's been important, though, is that there have been events that have come through. So this isn't a complete loss in terms of precipitation, but there's about a 4-inch deficit overall over the last 60 days. Sliding to the north and west toward Cordoba, this is an area where we're much closer to our climatological averages. And so you probably heard some of the recent reports about the early planted crop and its condition. It looks really good in this particular area. Now going back to the north and east over towards Santa Fe, again, there have been rainfall events that have happened in early November and a couple in October. But we look over the last 60 days and we were quite dry at the end of September getting into October. That's where the main deficit is coming from. But these events are buying time and they're preventing, major losses. And if we go just north and east of Santa Fe here, again, that's another area where it's still off. We're off by about 5 inches, but there have been a few events. So what I'm trying to say is that this is an area that's vulnerable right now, even though things look good. And I can say they look good a few different ways. This is a look at a vegetation health index, comparing it to a year ago. And you do start to notice that there are a few pockets in places where the values are below what they were a year ago. But over toward Cordoba, things look good. Near Santa Fe, they look good. And then in pockets in southern Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay, they look good. Don't use this to assess Brazil. Too much cloud cover to make this a reliable product. I do also like to look, though, at what they've got from EOS Terra. That's one of our satellites here. It has a satellite called MODIS. And I just want to point out that in parts of southern Brazil and Argentina, there are some places where the Vegetation Health Index and the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, or NDVI, is very high. So my point is to say that up to this point, widespread problematic areas, where there are major issues, I'm not finding them. The thing about the forecast is where it's all going. And this is the latest update from the European model, came out today on Thursday. We're going to look out at this 30-day window from the end of November to well, Christmas Eve. And if you look out here, we see the models have once again gone very aggressive after very dry conditions in Argentina, parts of, southern Brazil, Uruguay, and maybe the southern part of Paraguay. There have not been any indications of a slowdown in the flow of the monsoon across much of Brazil. In fact, most long-range forecasts suggest, even despite the La Nina, that the monsoon will be quite healthy this year, and we've seen the pace at which they've gotten the crop in. But this is what's got me concerned. Now, I think there's a lot of things that are working here. One has been the high values of the Antarctic Oscillation, or the southern annular mode. The second thing here is that La Ninas, as we talked about on Monday, just tend to favor more subsidence in this area, and we tend to be drier. And I want to make this point. If we continue to see the MJO favoring this region, which we talked about in the videos for the United States today, we tend to get a lot of subsidence in the Pacific, and our best rising motion is supportive of the monsoon in Brazil. But the question is, do we have too much upper level subsidence over Argentina moving forward? That's one component of this that I want to keep a very close eye on, because it appears that because of the strength of the trade winds, that we're going to get a lot of rising motion here for the next 45 to 60 days. I think that's going to be favored. Okay, with that as a setup, let me now take you into the near-term forecast, because we've seen the longer range favoring drier conditions going through the next, about 45 days or so. Over the next 10 days, though, this is the latest update from the European model. This is the 12Z run today. Again, Mato Grosso do Sul, Goiás, Tocantins, Minas Gerais. These areas continue to favor above normal precipitation. We saw the models throughout the week give us a drier look in parts of southern Brazil, so from Paraná here to Rio Grande do Sul and into parts of Uruguay. But we're going to watch to see the precipitation coming through here to give it another shot before we really go over dry. Because if we watch this, ready? This is the latest European run. As I play through the day on Friday here, now getting into Saturday, it appears that on Saturday into Sunday, right there, that there's going to be a front that slides through Argentina. See it? And it's going to be bringing in some precipitation and possibly heavy rain at times, maybe some big thunderstorms there. And that rain is just going to buy more time before we get into our major concern time period here in the month of December. This is what we're going to be watching most carefully. Because after that rain goes through, and we see that the main frontal boundary sits here, much of the rest of Argentina is very dry through the next 10 days. I'm just playing this on out. Now, you're getting what you expect in through here. We've been talking about that quite a bit. But this area in through here goes over dry after this weekend rain. So when you look again at the probability, this is the precipitation anomaly. A lot of what you got here is just coming in on scattered storms at the end of this week through the weekend, so Saturday, Sunday. Now, putting it all together, that rain could come in there and add 30 to 60 millimeters of rain in places, some places even more than that. And we're going to stay drier through the weekend into southern Brazil. But that fills in once we get into next Wednesday, Thursday. But overall, that's the region where we're really missing out on the heavier precipitation right in through here, which we just saw in the previous animation. So you put all together, your drier pocket is right in through there. And that's the big concern, because going back to that graphic, this is the area the models continue to forecast drier conditions. And it's just not here in the near term. This is looking out there, again, for the month of December. But we just looked at the next week. Week 2 is when it appears to be starting down there. So I think we need to keep very close watch on what's happening in Argentina. They have a very long planting window in that area. So we're talking about the early planted crop looking good, but I'm concerned about what's going to be planted now and what's going to be maturing over the next 45 days. So I'm going to watch that, and I will keep you updated on it. I look forward to talking again on Monday. Thanks.